Hello, this is Mixers, right? This is part 2 of into Animal Tierlist, so which I'm going to be on to the parts that starts with the letter B. Starting off with the domestic Bactrian camel, which is the camelid of the base game. I know that there's a lot of people that feel like the dromedary in the base game instead, with being, well, the most iconic desert animal. I think it was added to the domestic battery car was added to the base game instead, with it being more common in captivity, especially in Europe, due to it being adapted to both hot climates and cold climates. And I will say that the domestic battery car with my research counts again, and since it unfortunately doesn't have its winterfall, which is more striking with its more shaggier appearance. The fact that you think that it only resembles how it looks in the summer, which looks fine. I suppose the texture could be improved. I was a bit of a shit that you're not to put in the mediocre category, since the domestic life is one of my favorite two films, as I think it has a very cool look to it. And I'm going to put it Tonyama Leopard and African Wild Dog. Move on to the bird's tapir. The tape in the base game, it's on the very small amount of Latin American habitat animals in the base game. So I'll say that throughout this choice, since that tapir isn't that common in captivity. I get that it's the most common, it's the largest Central American land animal, and it's the most commonly kept tapir in North America. But because tapir is the main species that you tend to see worldwide is the Brazilian tapir, through its presence in the Amazon rainforest. But in execution, I think this is one of the best base game battles. It's surprisingly accurate to its full-like counterparts, and the fact that it's one of the very small amounts of Latin American base game battles allows it to be a very use. Along the fact that it's a new world tapir, and so it's going into the excellence category. I think it's probably a bit more use. So for America, you can just pretend it's. So I think that it's around here. Moving on to the Bengal tiger, which I think nowadays tends to be a bit of a controversial choice, since, well, the base game has two subspecies of tiger and the other being the amber tiger, which I'll get into later. And a lot of people nowadays feel like there's just two valid subspecies of tiger, with the Bengal tiger, amber tiger, just simply being populations of the mainland tiger, and just it's like the Bengal tiger shouldn't be in the base, with it's not definitively kept in captivity outside of Asia. Now it should be for pointing out that the Bengal tiger was actually revealed for the game before the amber tiger, implying that this was adding the Bengal tiger to the game before the amber tiger, with it being revealed on National Tiger Day of 2019, and it's the most iconic, and which being the most widespread drawn, and it's the tiger that's found in the Indian subcontinent. Now, I know that the Bengal tiger is considered to be one of the weaker one of the weaker cats in the game, with lots of people finding it cartoonish. No, I put the two tigers at a similar level. I can agree that they can a bit cartoonish in the face, but I do find the coloration and the passing is done very well. Oh, I think actually, I think there's some cats in the game that are less accurate than the Bengal tiger, which does include the previously talked about. Um, the stamps, I'm going to put it below the African leopard. So moving on to the bighorn sheep of the Americas animal pack. It's one of the least popular animals in the Americas pack since, well, isn't that high on the meta wish list with it being. They're pretty rare in captivity, especially outside North America. The, the big old I would say it's not so it's not that big into maybe because they don't have any personal attachment towards it. It isn't present in captivity in the UK, for example. I've done that in England specifically. There's a very small amount of odd Cape Vine that's a presence here. Say that the big old sheep is very accurate to its real life counterparts, and as it's the only capron in the game that's found in hot climate, so that makes so animal. I think it's a bit than the adults would have put above the Africans found average, would be more accurate to it in comparison. Moving on to the Binturong of the Southeast Asia pack. And this is it's a great choice of the Southeast Asia pack. It's very common in captivity. It's a very unique species of civet with black grey coloration, shaggy fur, royalized. Now it does stand out as being the first plant to be given a new model, since a lot of people didn't like how the original model looked, and I will say that the original model was terrible with how the face looks. Now I do appreciate the fact that the new one is improvement to the original, but I will say that I think there's still some improvements to be made to make shaggier, have more color variations. I think the tufts of the ear should be more prominent. So I'll put it at good, as I appreciate the fact that the model was changed, but still, and I think it will probably at the very bottom of the good category. Now then, so moving on to the 4 animals in the game that starts with the word black. Now the way that it was arranged in the Zoopedia was whether or not the name has a hyphen in it. It's a bit down. So I'm starting. So with these forms, starting off with the black and white frost lemur, which is notable for being the first new base game animal. It allows a third lemur to be added to the game, which it's the lemurs in the game, I do think, are amongst the most underrepresented owls in the game, and don't even have any other types of prosimian, which is a bit of a shame, since I think you can see various different lemurs mixed together, especially in Europe. The black I will say it's the rough lemur that I think should be in the base game, since it's more common in captivity than the red ruffed lemur. Now, the levers, so the base game levers will start out the best. Actually, I think the black and white draft lever here, it's not as shaggy as it is in real life. I will say I did to put the rough levers at a similar position, but the lemurs are still useful animals since, a very common, prominent primates in captivity. And you, since you ever have them in. Cool, so goes a bit at the great category, and it's less unique than the Asian water monitor, so it's going to go below it. Moving on to the black rhino of the arid pack. I will say it's a bit of an odd choice for the arid pack, since this is more of a grassland or savanna animal, but it did complete the what is referred to as the rhino triangle. The 3 species of rhino that you would see in captivity. More of an occasional sighting at best, but they are one of the two African species of rhino. So it is an iconic African animal, and is also critically endangered, so it has that going for it. The model I do think looks pretty accurate. It's well detailed. I will say it could have some more color variations to represent the different subspecies of black rhino, and it's one of the default coloration, which should be a more lighter grey, since the black rhino you typically see in captivity, which are primarily the eastern subspecies, are more they're more light grey or beige in coloration. I think it's more accurate than the African savannah. Does a better job of looking like how it typically does a real life comparison, so it's going to go above it. Moving on to the black-tailed prairie dog, one of the two rodents of the North America pack. I know it's a bit of a somewhat controversial choice, since it's very similar to the meerkat, both in the game and real life. But I still think it's another great choice for that pack, since it is a well-known North American animal for how widespread it is in the southern parts of the USA. It's also very common in captivity worldwide. It is it is a species of rodent that you would expect to see in captivity. To be honest, I'm actually going to put this is another animal worth putting in the excellent category for me. It's very accurate to its real life counterparts. I'm going to put it, I think, just above the African swordfish, just below. So it could do a more fur variations that made me look a bit fluffier. That's how it would look like in captivity and in winter, especially. But it is very spots. It's a very also very cute. I will say this is a bit of a controversial opinion, but I actually think this is it's better than the meerkat. I think it's more accurate to its real life count. So there's another animal worth putting in the excellence category. Moving on to the black wildebeest, another baffling choice for the base game, since well, the black wildebeest is just it's overshadowed by the blue wildebeest, since to be a lot more iconic, more commonly found in both the wild and in captivity, and was completely and isn't even an endangered species at the very least. Now this is another animal that's a lot of like it's amongst the worst animals in the game, and so I think a lot of people would consider it to be the worst antelope in the game. I will say because of the model, but I will say that it is a bit overhated. I think the model is more so aligned with the other base game models. There isn't really an aspect to it that I would say makes it bad, but it is an antelope, which was I don't care that much about. I don't have any personal attachment to the black wildebeest. Personally, and so I think the fact that it's done okay and it's not that I don't care that much about would actually put mediocre category, though I'm actually going to put it a little bit above the alpine ibex. Moving on to the black buck, which I will say straight away, I find it odd that it took until the last DLC for the most highly requested answer to make it to the game. It was highly requested because of its appearance in the first Zoo Tycoon game, and it's an Asian species of antelope, which I don't think there's that many species of antelope that are found in that continent. It's the most commonly kept Asian antelope in captivity, and second most commonly kept antelope in general. So the fact that it took this long was a bit, but baffling, but I'll say that the black buck is one of my favorite antelopes in the game. It's a very striking antelope for its the dark coloration and the white patches on the buck's face. It's very accurate to all my counterparts as well. That's a big bonus. I will say that it could. So I think it's going to be very high up, just above the Arctic fox. I will say, just because it's more accurate. I will say that it could do with the bucks having the coloration of the doe, since there are actually black bucks in cat you would see in real life that actually have the same coloration as the does, and so it's a bit of a missed opportunity there. Then we move on to the blue wildebeest. The wildebeest actually in the base game, since it is one of the most iconic species of antelopes. It's very commonly found on the plains of Africa, and it's large gatherings that go through long migrations. And I will say that in execution, I can definitely agree that it's way better than the black wildebeest. It's another very accurate antelope to its royal counterparts. Now at the same time, I don't care much about. So I get that I guess but it's been less better to than actual cattle. And I think it's also, a bit less than the adult, especially because it could do with some color variations, especially it doesn't have the all pale to have it also resemble the eastern subspecies, which means sort of a tanning coloration of light beige. That's moving on to the boa constrictor. One of the base game snakes. It's one of the very small models they don't have that much issue with. I will say that the snake roster advantage is very poor. The boa constrictor is one of the smaller choices that makes sense, since it represents your standard constrictor. It's very very common in captivity. It's in large snake in the northern parts of South America. I will say that the model is very weird looking. I mean, the coloration is done very well. The color is done fine, but I feel like it's weird, and the face looks weird. It's just dead and looks a bit like a taxidermic model, and but it just looks so good to put scurry. Actually, it has to be. It's an exhibit owl, so it's going to be the bottom of the mediocre category. For now, onto the bongo. Another base game antelope, but this is a choice that I think makes sense, considering that it is not just forest dwelling antelope and has a decent representation in captivity. This is another base game animal, so the texturing is fine. Not that special. It is amongst the most unique antelopes in the game, which being the only primarily rainforest dwelling species in the game, and so your Gong sections, for example. I'm not sure it's found in the Congo, but it's found in the jungles in Africa in general. So it is animal. He may not as stageable, but more versatile than the black and white Frost lemur. To the bonobo. Very surprising choice of the base game. That's since it's not that much of a necessity, it's pretty very captured. I think mainly for how horny it is in real life, and it's bit overshadowed by the common chimpanzee. This is also the pygmy chimpanzee. I think it's another base game animal. It looks fine. Could do skins, but I think it's okay. And I do think it's out of the two chip game, it is the better one. Put in the good category. Probably it's higher up than the African leopard. Suppose. Maybe even suppose around here. To the Bornean elephant. Which is a very controversial choice for the Asia back, even amongst the most popular parrot zoos. Yeah, this is a very pointless addition since it is very debatable on whether or not it's either a species of Asian elephant or not. So there's thinking that it's either a population of the Sumatran elephant or even population of the Indian elephant, which is also in the game. Plus, most places don't specify which subspecies. You have and even then, it's very rare in captivity. Not that many diversity keep it. I will say I will say it looks good, and I appreciate the fact that it's Frontier to try and differentiate it from the Indian elephants, and is the smallest in the game, and it is actually in the coloration that elephants typically are in captivity, which lies great to beige. But really being a pointless addition, I'm actually going to put it just below the African savanna elephants. I think even with its sort of game, it still needs a large amount of space. It's still an elephant. So, on to the Bornean orangutan, which the obvious choice of the base game is it is an iconic primate and Asian animal. And the Bornean orangutan is the first, the original species of orangutan, and the most commonly kept one. In execution, I think it's a bit of a mixed bag. There's aspects that does well, others that it doesn't. It's the model, and a lot of people feel like it's very much an orange gorilla with the head of an orangutan, since doesn't really look shaggy at all. And it also, outside of the brachiating animations that eventually be given and the three updates alongside the Oceania pack, it behaves very similarly to the Western large gorilla, except for the fact that it doesn't beat its chest. No, say there are still aspects that it does well. The coloration is spot on. The skin texturing is done well, and the backing is still great. I think it wasn't for I would still put it a bit lower, possibly in mediocre category. But as it stands, I'm gonna say it's a good animal. I put it below the plain bison. This will be goes. We're on to the salmon pink bird-eating spider, which is one of the 4 tarantulas and arachnids in general in the game. It's a choice. It's a commonly kept tarantula in captivity with prominent species. It's dark coloration of being very dark brown, or sometimes even appearing black, and a docile species, and so there aren't any species that look extremely similar to it. For it, and I will say that I'm not the biggest fan of it, since it's another base game exhibitor that's more brightly coloured than it is in real life. It's more lighter shade of brown compared to what it's meant, especially in around the legs. To be more darker coloured species, though in the Super it is appearing a bit black, but in the game it is meant to be a lot lighter than this. So it's going below the Amazonia giant centipede. Moving on to the Brazilian wandering spider, the only arachnid in the game that is a tarantula. I should say the only spider in the game that is a tarantula. As it's a bit of an odd choice as well. I get that it's notable for being amongst the most dangerous spiders out there. How highly venomous it is, and it tends to evade bananas. But I'm not sure there's any places that definitively keep the species. And that's a really, I think it's probably the best spider in the game. It looks pretty accurate. It's one of the better base games. So even if we can put maybe the ball on that's accurate and detailed, maybe a little bit too brightly coloured. It's still an exhibit animal, so I think I could have put it, but it is more accurate than these four. It's still going to be below, just below the Bornean elephants. So there. Move on to the brown-throated sloth, which is the first walkthrough exhibit now for me to talk about. It's from the tropical pack. A very baffling choice to me, since it appears to me as the other to kill the hype for flying bear, since the tropical pack would have been the perfect DLC for them, with a lot of the senior captivity being found in tropical rainforests, and they're the main animals that you would see in tropical houses. And also, so this shouldn't even be in the species of sloth. Again, since although I get that the casual person would be more familiar with with three-toed sloths, since they're more in fiction, pop culture. But you're far more likely to see two-toed sloths, mainly the Lin's two-toed sloth. And the sloth, it's very rare in captivity. There's only one place outside of South America that defers keeps it. That's being Dallas World Aquarium in the USA, which even then, it's they're not the best zoo out there, unfortunately, when it comes to the space that they give their animals. And I mean, the fact, the choice of it does a bit, made a bit of a bad stuff now, and a lot of the facts that there isn't that much customization watches that you can have of it. It's the least customizable walkthrough exhibit animal. The model, I'd say, is fine. It's pretty consistent in its appearance. It would have. Here's a hard channel, or you had the lens. So it's sloth. Again, it stands out for being the only walkthrough exhibit animal again that doesn't fly. But it's not. So I think it is more interactive than the regular exhibit animals, but it's still the least interactive walkthrough exhibit animal, unfortunately. Finally, for this part, we got the bush dog of the America's animal pack. It's a pretty good choice. It's a bit of a surprising choice, considering that the coyote, which we'll get into later, was revealed before it, and so the America's Pack gets us on being the first and only DLC to have more than one species of canids. The bush dog is more of an occasional sight in captivity, which you're more likely going to see it in some places in Europe. It's also a unique canid for being one of the small amounts of species that's exclusive to South America, or carnivorous species. And in the game, it is still very unique, not just for the fact that it's from South America, but it's the only canid in the game that deep dives, which allows you to make some unique enclosures. However, what puts it tougher is the fact that it's the face. It's, again, admittedly, in this, it doesn't look that bad. The face to me just looks like a teddy bear. It doesn't look like how a bush dog head is supposed to look like. It's cartoonish. It makes me want to put it in the good category, and I think that's what's gonna at the end. So I think I'll put it above the bonobo, but below the alpine goats. And there we go. That's what it's is looking so far. American alligator store. That's the very top of the tier list, but the most animal so far is the sour pig bird-eating spider. So, next part I'm going to go over the plant cells that start with the letter to C. So we'll have next.